And one of the things I've learned a long time ago, because of the amount of children I have, but even now more so homeschooling, it's like because I'm always on a one-on-one with him, that I have to make sure I take time for myself so I can recharge. Taking a martial arts movement class, and no one was home that day for Sage to stay home, but I needed to go and do this for myself. And I was about to cancel it because they had to go to work, and everyone's schedule, you know, they were going to school, so no one was going to be able to stay that 1 hour with him while I went away. And I called Emery, the person who was going to teach me the class. I said, you know, I'm going to have to cancel. He said, no, why? What's going on? I told him, you know, I have Sage. He said, I'll bring Sage with you. I was like, all right, and get there. You know, I gave him the speech. Sage, make sure you sit quiet. You know, don't do anything. Just let me do this class and we're finished. We're out of here, right? And he's like, okay. So anyone who knows Sage knows that Sage likes to have conversations with everybody, right? He's like the mayor of everything. So he's sitting there, and in 5 minutes, there, of course, he goes, so what are you guys doing? You know, and we're in like this workout area. It's like a dojo, but really comfortable. And Emery goes, you know, I'm teaching your mother some moves, and it's an incredible class for me. So Sage is like, so can I do it? And I'm like, no, you know, because I don't want you to bother Emery. So really, you know, for me, I was like, it's my time, but also I don't want to waste this man's time because his, you know, time is money. And surprisingly, Emery goes, as soon as I finish with your mom, I'll give you some time. Emery is like this grown adult man who is so incredible with, you know, people in general, but children. Like, he's like the Pied Piper of kids. So they're playing, but as he's playing with Sage, he's telling Sage to spell things. And he's saying, okay, spell dog. And as he's, you know, they're doing this crab walk or they're doing a martial art move, you know, Sage repeats spelling dog to him, right? And I said, it's like I'm sitting there and light bulbs are just like pow, 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 jumping off at me. I'm like, something's happening. What's happening here? So when they were done, and they did a lot of incredible things, I said, what's that? Well, what are you doing? And Emery said that he teaches these classes called learning through play or learning through movement, because one of the things that he finds for children, especially our boys, they're always told to keep still, sit still, don't move, you know, stay in this spot, you know, right this way, whatever. And unfortunately, some children don't learn that way.
Dealing with the experiences that I've had, some of the negative ones that I don't want the children to experience. I think that if you cannot control yourself in this world, you're going to have a very, very large problem across the board. You are asking children to innovate. You're asking children to be educated on a high level. You're asking children to navigate society, but you're not giving them the basic tools in which to do that. And I'm not talking about traditional education where you sit and listen. I'm talking about, if you're asking me to pay attention for 6 hours, then teach me how to pay attention. If you're telling me that I need to control myself in stressful situations, which may be very detrimental to even my life, then teach me how to do that in a real way. I'm not talking about a lecture format. I'm talking about, that's the wonderful thing about exercise and movement techniques, martial arts. You have to evidence the experience. There is a cognitive experience, there is a academic experience, but you can read all you want to. That does not mean that you can evidence the skills. And so there's a hands-on somatic approach to these disciplines that affects the human organism in a way that I've not seen anything else do. And so again, I don't try to take away their childhood, I try to enhance it. Like a lot of times you were asking me while we were doing the drills, and I say, I don't explain to them a lot of times what I'm up to. My overall arching theme is in the drill. I explain to them what they should be doing in the drill or the game, but I hide the intention because I want them to be able to be motivated in a different way. If it's fun and they're focusing on that aspect of it, they're still getting the benefit of it without having to think oh, he's teaching me something that I really need to know, sometimes that gravity can impede the learning process. It's not that we don't take it seriously or that they don't know that it's a serious thing, but I don't think it's always necessary to constantly hit them over the head with the whole aim of the program.
He was actually believing the reason why he was homeschooling was because there was something wrong with him. And one day he said, Mommy, I have focus now. I could go back to school, right? I'm okay now, right? And I said, wait, hold on. Wait a minute. We need to really talk about why we're homeschooling. You're not being punished. This is like this is some great stuff that we're getting a chance to spend time together. And I realized I had made this kitchen into like a small classroom. You know, I had at one point I was using the dry erase markers on the mirror in the living room, and you know, I would be like, okay, A, B, C, tell me what that sounds, and it was like by rote. I was doing everything that I didn't like that was happening in public school. I was doing it here, and he thought it was almost like a drill sergeant thing that was happening. We weren't doing anything different. So he's like, all right, well, look, I'm behaving now, right? So I can go back. And I said, you know what, we're not doing schoolwork anymore. We're not doing anything. We're not reading, we're not writing, we're just gonna go out and have some fun. And we started going to museums and parks, and he started going to his classes, and he said, I'm not doing any schoolwork, none. Because we needed to unplug. So for like a month, I would read to him, or we would talk about stuff, or we would go to museums and talk about those things and draw, but opening up a book, it never happened. And I remember his grandfather, he's in Florida, he was like, what are y'all doing? You know, because the rest of the family, all the siblings were like, are you sure you know what you're doing, Mommy? You know, because they all had their own little issues of why Sage should not be homeschooled, or how it, you know, socialization, they were worried about where his friends are going to be, and that was another issue. But we needed to both need to unplug from the rat race of chasing down education and embrace the concept of learning. And what I found was that had I had the maturity, the experience, the bravery, I would have homeschooled everybody. And notice I didn't say the money, because the concept is that homeschoolers are, you know, this two-family household where the mom is able to stay home and the husband goes out to work, and you know, there's a $120,000 paycheck coming in somewhere, and you know it's great, right? That's not always the reality, and in a lot of cases that's not the reality. It's mothers doing some extraordinary things, fathers doing some extraordinary things to make one end meet the other, because they made the decision to create a better life for their children. And when I was younger, I didn't know that that was the case. I wanted to homeschool everyone, but I could only homeschool to a certain extent, and then, okay, now you have to go to school because I have to go to work. And I think if they had gotten that attention, which is what I think homeschool does, it gives a child attention. And when you give anything attention, you give a plant attention, it grows, it blossoms. You know, you give your body attention, you'll take care of it, you'll dress it, you'll keep it healthy, whatever. The neglect, the high class neglect that comes into play when you don't know better, creates a situation where my sons are, they're doing wonderfully, but I think that they would be further along than where they are now had they gotten the ability to have the amount of attention I'm able to give to their younger brother.